Right here, 947, ladies and gentlemen, the one and only
Oh boy,
Jason Solis. Good morning,
would you
Jason.
stop with that? It's all about the guests, man. Okay, well, it's time for our Greater Good segment. We look forward to doing this each and every Wednesday. The Greater Good is brought to you right here on the link.
The Greater Good is brought to you by your friends at J. Goodman, a happiness company. You're in good hands with J. Goodman.
Representatives bringing awareness to our residents and encouraging participation in planned activities to celebrate the Greater Good. Once again, brought to you by the fine folks at J. Goodman, a happiness company, and you definitely are in good hands with J. Goodman. And we are in good hands right now because, hands up, we are in the presence of Dr. Rosa Palomo and Dr. Debbie Ellen, two members of the Pacific Islands Bilingual Bicultural Association. Half a day to you both. I wish I could amen the both of you because I have to be, respectful. But we're on Zoom, so amen.
And it's COVID.
Oops, Auntie Rosa, you gotta unmute. So good morning to you both.
Good morning, half a day.
All right, so good to see both of you. And as I understand, I remember I was interviewing the both of you about a year ago because your organization was making charitable contributions. And Auntie Rosa, we'll start with you. You were advocating for how important it is on Guam to be. I mean, some people on Guam, bilingual is the minimal. Some people speak Chamorro and English and Tagalog and Japanese. And but how are things at your organization? Now, obviously, we're still not at 100% back to normal and everything. So how are things going with serving the community?
Well, Jason, with our organization, per the our constitution, we have to be sensitive with as many of, or if not all of the Micronesian the languages within Micronesia, because that's within the scope of our organization. And it isn't just focusing on Chamorro and English, but also in as many other of the other languages as possible. We are also encouraging members, not just from the educational community, but other communities who come from these other languages and cultures, so that they too can impart knowledge of their languages and their culture to us. Now, we've done a couple of things with, for instance, there was a program on Humanities Guahan, right, Dr. Deb? That was one of the things. And the program coordinator there, Nadine, had asked us to also do stories in Chamorro, so that there's also the diversity of languages there.
Oh, our friend
So
Nadine Sangeni.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, it's we support that kind of activity because it's being inclusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being exclusive. Sometimes it's a little difficult, but we do the best we can. Deb, you want to add on to that?
Well, just I think in terms of over the past year plus, in terms of meeting and doing things, a lot of our communication has been WhatsApp. We're still continuing efforts. So if somebody finds out about, somebody in need, for example, we rally together as always and do things, whether it's collecting funds or collecting material and then supporting those communities. So the PIBA in some ways has become maybe even more active, I would say, in this past year and a half, in terms of, community, doing things in the community for folks that may be in need for different reasons, right? And then we've wanted to do other things, such as we're going to be doing some events coming up now in July and then on through the next year. And I know Professor Palomo will talk to you about that. So, it's given us time to kind of rethink and to prioritize, what we are about in terms of, reaching out to the community, listening to the folks in our PIBA group that are telling us about other needs in the community.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so that's been going.
Yeah, and maybe I guess I kind of pigeonholed myself, and I'll take that responsibility because when I said on Guam, so many people, at least from my generation. I'm 47, right? So I grew up like around the 80s. And when I said so many of us speak Chamorro and English and Japanese, it was kind of like that was the thing to do. But Dr. Palomo, you said very effectively, as you were like, now we have to embrace the fact that we're part of a larger Micronesia community. So, we want to learn how to speak Chuukese, and Palauan and Koshrayan and Yapese and be able to communicate with our brothers and sisters who are our neighbors. Because, we share so many things in common culturally, and so many things about our ways of life parallel each other so naturally. And then language is one of those things like, you should pick up.
We should. We want to be able to understand each other better. And I think by being exposed to these other cultures, we become, I don't really care for the word, but rather than becoming suspicious when people speak a different language, we become more aware of the language, maybe pick up a word or two, or it's no longer, oh, they're not talking about me. Let me see what I can learn from this. And if anything, just being appreciative of the culture. Sometimes our negative comments come about just because we don't understand. There's a miscommunication, just even in the nonverbal language. In Chamorro, one of the things that I learned as a child very early on is that, when I'm being asked a question, I don't really have to respond verbally. If I kind of raise my eyebrow, like that, then, I'm acknowledging the question, right? Whereas in other cultures, that's just not acceptable.
Yeah.
Just as an example, I was in a meeting and it was with a group of Micronesian men, directors, in fact, from all the different islands. And I kept pitching, a research proposal that I really wanted to have passed. And somebody, my cohort from the CNMI, during a break, pulled me aside and said, "You said your piece, let it go. Let one of them bring it up, because if one of them brings it up, it's a go." And it was a go. Now, I'd like to think that, I'm a little bit on the feminist side, but you know what? If that's what it takes to get the work done, so be it.
Exactly.
Right?
And Dr. Palomo, I really think that's so very big of you, because, we all, as Guamanians, we appreciate your life's work in being able to perpetuate the Chamorro language and Chamorro culture and everything. And you're actually extending this now and saying, everybody should know where they're from, know your roots, practice your heritage. But it's also important to know that of your neighbors and to dialogue and to share your own language and to learn their own language as well. And Dr. Ellen, I know you personally, and you have always made it a point to immerse yourself through your various travels in culture, in language, in ways of life.
Yeah, and actually, this really goes also to a conversation that we might have another time in terms of our Tulaza Micronesia, which is aligned well with the vision and mission of PIBA. But in terms of trying to get the island school going, where students would be able to learn at least part of the day in their own home languages. So, it's not going to be exclusive of, only Chamorro, which I understand the importance of, absolutely, but also honoring the fact that when those students come to our schools, it doesn't mean that they leave their culture and languages at the front door.
Right.
So that's something that we might have more conversation on later, but also, yes, very much I'm committed to embracing the cultures and languages of people. When I was in the Middle East, in Abu Dhabi, and they were pushing English, right? And they were already sounding concerns about, we're going to lose our own language. If we only are teaching English and instruction is in English, which the teachers weren't always, that wasn't their first language. The students, it wasn't their language. They didn't know it. The parents, it wasn't their language, but there was that push. So, always trying to remember and celebrate, the person's home language, their native language and culture, and embracing that as much as we can into our education.
Certainly. And one thing, ladies, I know that even going back to that interview I did with you last year is PIBA is also an organization where each of the members believes to their core in giving back in community service. And Auntie Rose, I think last year, was it was it a literacy project that you guys undertook?
We last year the project we did was again it was for the babies.
That's the babies
at
that's
Global
right, that's right.
Dorm. I believe this was put out by the call for donations of baby items, diapers, formula, those sorts of things, bottles, was put out by the Catholic Social Services. So, you know, our members and, you know, Chris, we don't have a large membership. I mean, maybe max 30, but when push comes to shove and these things happen, and all that needs to happen is someone from the organization says, you know, this community needs certain things, and especially if they're in the area of educational materials. I know baby formula and stuff may not be educational, but we need to nurture these children to be able to get them into the educational stuff that we donated this past month.
But you know what? 30 people means there's 60 hands that can really jump in and contribute to work. And as they say in the good book, many hands make light work.
Yes, yes. So that was what we did, and we just donated our diapers and etc. to dropped it off at Catholic Social Services, and then they took care of it. But that was for the Global Dorm babies and toddlers. This time around, I think we got stuff for toddlers, maybe some stuff for babies, but it was primarily for older toddlers and elementary kids. And the call was for, again, this came out of Barrow and the Victims Advocate. And we did not donate our stuff on the so-called deadline, but, you know, I communicated with them and said, you know, we're gathering our stuff, that sort of thing, and we want to donate. So they said, as soon as you're ready, just let us know. And these were educational games, toys. Unfortunately, there were a couple of books, right, on Debbie, that you on.
There were a lot of books.
There were a lot of books, but there were a lot of was it in the Chuukese language or stories that dealt with other cultures? Very nice.
Well, ladies, don't mean to cut you off, but we are at the top of the hour, so unfortunately we got to go. But obviously, we really appreciate that, and it's our honor to be able to feature the very fine work that the two of you and the other 28 members of PIBA do.
Here
on the Greater
I certainly
Good,
will let them know. Do I have 1 minute?
Well, I can give you 10 seconds.
Oh, well, community, be on the lookout. We have a literacy activity coming up. We will be talking with the mayors on July 7th about this, and hopefully they will welcome us, into their community.
I'm sure they will, most
Yeah,
likely.
Auntie Rosa, don't worry. When that happens, we'll get you on after the meeting, and we'll catch up and get the word out again, okay?
Esta,
okay. Algo más.
Debbie, thank you so much. Always a pleasure. All right, everybody, that's our show for the link. Thank you so much for watching, and that was The Greater Good. We appreciate it as always. Really jam-packed show today. We appreciate you watching, interacting with us. Have an outstanding Wednesday, everybody. Remember, at 4 o'clock on the Governor's Facebook page, we're going to share it on our stream too. They will announce the Week 2 winners of the Vax to Win promotion, Chris.
Oh.
Yes, they will, Jay. Thanks for that. Good morning. It's 10:01, guys. KUAM TV, está hecho.
Make it through the week with
The
Monday.
KUAM Care Force presents The Greater Good every Wednesday on the link with the support of Jay Goodman. This special feature presents interesting and informative interviews with community leaders and organization representatives to bring awareness to our residents and encourage participation in planned activities to celebrate. The Greater Good is brought to you by your friends at Jay Goodman, a happiness company. You're in good hands with Jay Goodman.